Welcome back to Polyam Parenting 101. I'm Jen. I work with queer, non-monogamous, and neurodivergent families through the joys and challenges of parenting outside the box.
And I'm David. I'm a psychologist, professor, and researcher on sexuality, gender, and relationships across the spectrum. And today, to add to our series, we're going to have a little conversation about what happens when a relationship between two adults is de-escalating or breaking up or changing, and maybe one partner is a legal guardian or bio parent, and the other partner in the de-escalation maybe doesn't have a legal standing to parenting, but they have been part of your child's life. And you're trying to navigate in this de-escalation, what does a relationship look like with the kids? Um, I think first the context really matters around developmentally, where is the child at? How long have they known the person? And what conversations have already occurred in the adult with the adults? And Jen, you were highlighting a little bit about the importance of these conversations, even in the formation of relationships. And what have you noticed around the conversations that would be important to happen ahead of time?
Yeah, so ideally, the adults have some conversations or potentially even make written agreements, depending on what the
Mm,
nature of the relationship between adults and children is going to be,
mm,
before or in the early stages of the non-bio parent becoming a part of the child's life. And some
right.
conversations around, if we broke up, what would that look like?
Hmm.
And there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer to that, and it's unfortunately not going to be legally enforceable
Hmm.
generally. But if you have some understanding of, we have an intention that if we were to break up, you would continue to come over for Sunday dinners and
Right.
have a relationship with the kids, and we would, endeavor to remain friends and to carry on some kind of cordiality and maintain that relationship, or an understanding of, no, if we break up, like that's it. I'm not going to see
Mm,
your kid again. Um, or I'm not going to allow you to see my kid again, or whatever it might be. But just having some understanding so that, which kind of goes into informed consent.
yeah.
Because one of the things that I've seen is like someone gets involved in someone else's child's life, assuming they will continue a relationship with that child, break up, bio parent is like, you can't anymore. And they're heartbroken because they put a lot of love and energy and they wanted that to continue, but they have no way to force
Right.
access or continuation. And so, if that had been explicitly stated up front, they could have made a decision about whether or not they wanted to get involved in the child's life in the first place.
And what I've seen, in some of my work is, those conversations when they happen in the development of an adult relationship, right? You're able to talk about what are the good times going to be like, and when we encounter hard times, right? How do we want to respect each other, and how do we, really still show the kids who are part of this family how adults behave, right? That some of these conversations can and should happen and when we're in that early love, new relationship energy, right? A lot of things can be idealized. Oh, we're always going to get along but there's some maturity in saying, okay, when we hit difficult times or when we're arguing, how do we still protect the kids and the family that's wrapped up in this, right? It's not just your love, but these people are coming into your kids' lives as well. So we can idealize a little bit. And then when we actually get into it, that's where it gets hard. And I think not triangulating the kids in to say, well, I need to have access. I still want to hang out with, your kid because you're really trying to stay close to your former partner or someone you're de-escalating with. Um, I take the approach that in all of this, our primary responsibility is to the well-being of our children. And we do sometimes have to put that, I would say 100% of the time, we have to put that front and center. And that sometimes means the difficult decision of saying, okay, as the legal guardian or bio parent, I need to make the decision that maybe my former partner will no longer be a part of my child's life, whether that's for safety, whether that's for something that came to light in the relationship. So, what we do then is we do get a moment to teach our kids that part of life is impermanence, things change. And sometimes we have to hold that grief, right? And we have to let our kids express that grief that they've lost someone very important to them. And they may not understand that right away developmentally, but we also need to be able to process that with them and help them understand that, as much as people come into our lives and love is part of it, love can also end and change. I think that's one of the hardest parts.
Yeah, it is. And it's also one of the most common fears that I hear
Yeah.
from people who are considering introducing a partner to their children is,
Mhm.
what if we break up? I'm going to traumatize my kids and they're going to be broken
Mhm.
forever.
Mhm. Yeah.
And and
We,
just yeah, they won't be. Not
no.
not if they're well supported through it, and that's what so much research shows us is that it's not whether or not these kinds of events happen to kids, it's how are they supported through it? How do they make sense of the event?
Mhm.
And so they have an opportunity from that to learn how to be with loss and grief,
Mhm.
how to get support from another person through loss and grief, how to, move forward from that. And the other thing I think people don't think about because in a monogamous world, the only person that is a partner to you as an adult is going to also be a parent to your
Mhm.
child.
Mhm.
And in polyamory, sometimes people don't untangle those things. And
Mhm.
so they assume, like, if this person is a partner to me, then they're going to hold the same significance as a parent to my child. And so
Mhm.
it's going to be like the same level of significance if we break up as like a divorce in a monogamous family. And that's not necessarily true. First of all, we can have all kinds of different structures to the adult child relationships, but also it prevents people from seeing that children are losing trusted adults from their lives all the time.
Mhm.
Like they change schools or classrooms, and a
Yeah.
teacher that they loved, they no longer see.
Mhm.
Or, a babysitter goes off to college and they no longer see
Good
them.
example. Right.
Or our friends, their friends' parents that were trusted and
Right.
close adults move away to another city. And from a child's perspective, those might all be just as significant of connections with
Mhm.
adults as your partner that, came over once a week.
Yeah. I do think there's this real opportunity in allowing those emotions to be validated with our kids. I think about also, sometimes we have falling out with other family members, or, there are some models for this. And because as adults, we're looking at, okay, how do I do polyamory? What are people going to think about this? I think sometimes we can miss that there are some analogous relationships that even monogamous people face, right? They have a falling out with their sibling and the aunt or uncle is no longer around. But because we get really, what are people going to think about polyamory and what's going to happen when I have a breakup? We miss that these are normal things that our children have to deal with. And just because we're talking about polyamorous relationships doesn't have to stigmatize it more. Um, I want to highlight the another piece of this is developmentally. I mean, there comes a point where if we're talking about a 15, 16, 17, 18-year old who is our child, maybe our bio kid, and we've got, the parenting legality, there comes a point where our kids also get to decide what relationship they want to have with other adults. Maybe it's a former partner of ours. Maybe it's even the analogy. Maybe it's a family member we had a falling out with. They could choose, I want to be close to that person. Um, and they're learning how to do relationships as well. So we can talk about the different stages and ages, right? It's going to be very different with college age or young adults or even some high schoolers. They might say, I want to meet up with so and so for a coffee, or I want to go to the museum with this person who I haven't been able to see in a year. And then we're going to be having those conversations with our emerging adult children and having to work on our own stuff about maybe them wanting to be in a closer relationship with our ex, which is a whole other can of worms.
Yes, it is. And I think it opens up, one of the things that we get to think creatively about is that the there are two different relationships, well, three different relationships. There's my
Mhm.
relationship with my partner that might be
Mhm.
de-escalating. There's my relationship with the child, and there's the partner's relationship with the child.
Mhm.
And just because something is changing between the two adults does not necessarily mean that the relationship between adult and child needs to change or needs to change in the
Mhm.
same ways. And
Good
that we
point.
get to think of those as separate relationships and make choices on purpose about what we
Mm.
want those separate relationships to look like for ourselves.
Right, right. I would add to that that there are, as we've talked about across these videos, right, ages and stages of our children where we will be the firm gatekeeper. We are the protector. We are the role model. And then as parents, I don't care if you're monogamous or poly, we're all learning how do we sometimes, as it's appropriate, we need to let our kids, when they're ready, be their own gatekeepers and learn
Mm-hmm.
some of these life lessons. So, yes, there are stages where we are clearly in that leadership role and we have to make sometimes very difficult decisions. But then as parents, we also have to make the difficult decisions for us of letting our kids learn how to do some of this on their own when they cross through those developmental stages. So,
Yes. Yeah. And one of the things that I see sometimes is when there are children and there's been close involvement, that if there weren't children, the de-escalation might look like just a straight up breakup and we just
mhm,
don't see each other anymore.
yeah.
And that when there are children, sometimes people put in an effort to, when it's safe to do so, put in an effort to de-escalate into something that looks more like friendship
Mhm.
so that there can be maintained relationship with a child. And again, that is not always going to be the safe or healthy option. And it's important to untangle for yourself, my action coming from a genuine concern for safety versus like anger and resentment.
Right. I'm going to cut them off because I don't like
Yeah.
them anymore and I don't want
Yeah.
them around my kid, right? That's your raging emotions.
Yes.
Right? You got to do some work, right?
Yes.
Kids are
Yeah.
never, and this is what gets me every time. And it's because I'm a parent also, and I've seen this happen, right? Our children can never be bargaining chips. They can never be triangulated. That is the most destructive thing I think we can fall into. So asking, that's a real challenge. Okay, what is my business right now? And am I really thinking about the needs of my developing child?
Yeah. And sort of attendant to that is the words we then use with our children.
Hmm.
Um, that even if say the partner is somebody that your child loves and was close to, and they're no longer going to be around your child, and even if you have very good safety reasons for that,
Hmm.
telling your child that person's a monster and
Oh.
this person that you loved is evil or something is not it's not helpful for your child. It's scary, it's confusing,
Hmm.
and it can lead them to like not trust their own sense of love and their
Right.
own memories of what their relationship was like with
Yeah.
that person. And so finding language and getting help if you need help to find appropriate words
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
age and the feeling so that you're not lying to your child,
Mhm.
but that you can express the truth that they're not going to be a part of your lives anymore and that you think
Mhm.
that's the best choice
Yeah.
for the family. And that owning I made that decision.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with you for missing that person.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as we've moved through this series, and we've gotten deeper into it, these are the thorny issues. These are the things that people worry about and should be thinking ahead about. They should be communicating about. And it's also not a reason to hold back and limit the possibilities of love, right? We can do the hard things and we have to slow down, think about them deliberately. And just like we will say to our kids, like, we know we'll get through this. We can manage this. You will also get through it. As a parent, this is very scary, but it's not a reason to shy away from difficult topics.
Yeah. And I think that's a great spot to leave this.
Thanks,
So
Jen.
thanks, David.
See you soon.